Good sunny morning from Guadalajara, Mexico. This is Kevin from Melanin Man Travels. Glad to be with you this morning. Hopefully you've had a great holiday season and are expecting your new year to be that much better. Excuse my voice, I am getting over a cold, but as the saying goes, one monkey don't stop no show. As we approach 2024, I just wanted to reflect and share with you some of the highlights of my 2023, especially as it relates to this move abroad process. So why don't you come along with me and see what my year was like. During January and February, I took my final scouting trip to Mexico. I spent most of it in Guadalajara. However, I did check out Puerto Vallarta and Mexico City for one last time, just to make sure that Guadalajara was what I was looking for in a new home. I stayed in various Airbnbs in different neighborhoods so that I can get a feel for what I liked. Unfortunately, the apartments didn't always have cooking facilities, or the facilities in a particular short-term rental were not up to my, let's say, hygienic standards. This resulted in me eating out most of January and February. These unexpected circumstances is why budgeting and saving are so important. It was getting a little hot out there, so I had to move inside. But if you want to learn more about my scouting trips to Puerto Vallarta and Mexico City, check out this video. Guadalajara is muy tranquilo, very chill. It's more of a big town versus a small city. I learned this is what I'm really looking for. Prior to moving out of the country, I relocated from Los Angeles to Las Vegas in 2021. The greater LA area has a population of 12.5 million people, where Vegas only has 2.9. One of the reasons for my US exodus is to have the experience of living in a smaller town, and Vegas prepared me for this. Puerto Vallarta, on the other hand, has a beach village feel with its population of about 500,000 people versus Mexico City, the megatropolis with 22 million people. Being the largest city in all of North America, Mexico City was just too much for me. The current population of Guadalajara, the whole metro area, is about 4.8 million. This has proved to be a nice compromise for me. Reconnecting with my local and expat friends, I made the decision that Guadalajara would be my new home. I returned to Vegas in late February, and I spent the time preparing for my move abroad. 2 years previous, I sold my condo in LA with the intention of purchasing a home in Las Vegas. Vegas is a less expensive real estate market, and it doesn't have a state income tax, so I got more for my money. It's not my desire or plan to eventually pay off my house, but I'm going to use it as leverage and income to finance my life abroad and to hedge against any future rent increases if I decide to return to the States. As long as I control what my mortgage payment will be, then I'll always be able to pay it. From a future retirement perspective, I believe this was a smart money move. The goal was to return to Guadalajara and live there by the end of the summer, so that only gave me a few months to get everything ready. One thing I needed to take care of when I returned to Vegas was sell my car. When I bought my car in December of 2014, I purposefully bought a car that I obviously knew I would enjoy driving, but also would have a high resale value when it was time to sell it. I took good care of her, and because I used public transportation going to and from work when living in LA, she had relatively low mileage. I bought my car for $28,800. I paid it off in 5.5 years, and 8.5 years later, I sold her 2 days before I left Vegas for $13,000. Outside of gas, insurance costs, and very few maintenance issues, my car cost me an average of $1,860 a year. Can you imagine the cost that I would have incurred if I decided to lease a car every 2 to 3 years? That's another subject. Because I've chosen to live a lifestyle and live in a city that does not require owning a car, I eliminated these costs and I was able to invest the proceeds of my sale. When I'm in the States, my transportation costs they're infrequent and affordable. Most of my stays are a week or two, and I either borrow a car from a friend or I rent one. I lived in Las Vegas for exactly 2 years. Initially, I had planned to live there just for 12 months, establish residency, and then leave. In this move abroad process, things don't always go according to plan. So, I lived there for an additional year. That year allowed me to grow personally, professionally, and solidify what I wanted in a new home city. I prepared my house for my new tenants, and I made arrangements with them to keep some of my personal items locked in the garage. I packed up my clothes, personal care items into 3 suitcases and 1 backpack, and I headed to Guadalajara. Before the big move, I still had other elements to complete in the move abroad process. An important one was to still maintain my presence in the United States. Because I am still employed in LA, I needed a local address. A favorite relative of mine was more than willing to allow me to do this. This address also serves as my residence for banking, health insurance, and things of that nature. A close family member or friend may help you maintain your personal business presence in the US as well. When move day arrived, I just forwarded my Vegas address to my Los Angeles address. The United States Post Office will allow you to do this up to 1 year at a time. During this time, I paid off my credit cards. Through investing, saving, and leasing out my home, I was able to create an emergency fund and budget for the next 12 months, which included living in Europe for what ended up being 3 months versus the 6 weeks that I originally thought. The best laid plans do not always work out. During the last 6 months of the year, my plan was to spend 6 weeks or so in Europe after the summer tourist season. This would be my last quote-unquote vacation for a while, until I settled into my new life and new budget in Mexico. However, my son called me one day to make a few announcements. First, he was getting married in the summer. Awesome. Attending a summer wedding would be a small adjustment to my moving plans. Second, he and his fiance were expecting my first grandchild in the fall. Okay, that changes things. Of course, I was going to be in LA for both events, but with a European trip planned after the summer, that would be a lot of flying around the world. And that was not in the budget. My new tenants were moving in on July 1st, and I needed a place to live. So I had to rework the timeline and the budget for my transition into Guadalajara. With a July move date, an August wedding date, and a birth coming in November, I decided to spend 1 month in Guadalajara. Then I could work with a realtor and some friends to locate a place to live when I returned in November. And then I would spend the whole 3 months between the wedding and the birth in Europe. Europe was a great adventure. Because this move abroad process does not have to be a static one, Europe gave me an opportunity to determine if there were any second, third, or even fourth choices for my future live abroad journey. I visited a lot of new cities and some old favorite ones. London, Berlin, and Barcelona all brought back some fun memories. Prague, Athens, Mykonos, Madrid, Malaga, Valencia, and Lisbon allowed me to create some new ones. I'll post some future videos on my adventures in those destinations later. What I was not prepared for in Europe was the multiple flight delays, flight cancellations, and the amount of times my luggage was delayed. My recommendation for you is to pack your patience. Some airlines were good about handling the delays and cancellations by providing meal vouchers or booking hotel rooms and ground transportation. Others left us to fend for ourselves. My trip from London to Athens was delayed multiple times before it was finally canceled. The airlines did not even secure accommodations and left me and many others scrambling to find our own hotel rooms. In addition to more flight and luggage delays, other challenges presented themselves. After being in Europe for a month, the handle on my luggage broke. So, for 2 whole months, I had to roll one piece of luggage and literally drag the other piece of luggage on every single trip and every single flight. Through the airports, on and off of the subways, up and down flights of stairs. It was a complete nightmare. Because I have a lifetime warranty on my luggage, I didn't want to throw it away and buy another piece. But maybe I should have. I don't wish that disaster on anybody. Well, the story gets better. Or worse, depending on how you look at it. Midway through the trip, my laptop broke. As a travel blogger, that's an important tool to have. Well, Apple came to the rescue. I was in Valencia, Spain, and an Apple store was not too far from my Airbnb. After finding a bilingual employee, they assured me that they could repair it and have it back to me before I left Spain. And thankfully they did. Except not before they found water damage. Well, that voided my warranty coverage, and it cost me about 350 euro. I wasn't expecting to spend that. And Spain charges a value-added tax on top of the service charge, which was an additional 21%. So, the 350 euros soon became 420 euros. This is why having access to capital when traveling abroad is so important. And when I say capital, I mean cash and credit. When traveling, I pack multiple credit cards, just in case. I use Apple Pay daily for purchases and then Capital One as a backup card. Neither of them have foreign transaction fees, and they both have a cash back feature. I treat them as debit cards, and I pay them off as soon as I use them through the app on my phone. I also carry a backup phone, but fortunately, I didn't need to use it. I'm sharing with you my mishaps because life still be lifing out here in these international streets. Just be as prepared as possible, just like you would at home. Well, as much as possible. All in all, I had an amazing trip in Europe. I got to do things I've always wanted to do, like swim in the Mediterranean Sea, visit Stonehenge, visit the island of Santorini, and visit the Acropolis during the day, and check out the bright lights at night. I also had the opportunity to meet so many new friends and meet others in person while I was in Lisbon, like Krishan Wright of Blacksit Global and Rick and Halisi of Our Black Utopia. My final blunder was during my return trip to Lisbon. Early in the video, I mentioned that I wanted to see if any European city might work as a backup to Guadalajara. I specifically wanted to see if Lisbon, Portugal or Valencia, Spain could work for me. So I visited both cities twice during my trip. On my return to Lisbon, my final destination on this journey, the weather was a bit wet. It had been raining and the ground was soaked. It was here where I took an unfortunate tumble, fell, and broke my elbow. Ouch! I was staying at a resort outside of the city at the time. The owners took me to urgent care and waited with me so that they can translate, as I don't speak any Portuguese. Not only did I appreciate this kind gesture, I was also grateful at the expeditious care that I received at the hospital. After being triaged, seeing the doctor, getting x-rays, seeing the doctor again, receiving a pain shot, and being placed in a sling, I was in and out in just 2 hours. And when I saw the bill after all of that, because I didn't have any insurance, I was even more shocked. Only $172 US. What? I cannot speak to who has the best healthcare, but I do know who has overpriced healthcare. November came and I was back in the US, just in time to meet my beautiful grandson who was born healthy and strong. After spending time with my growing family, I headed back to Guadalajara. I was able to secure a beautiful apartment in my desired neighborhood. I wanted to live in a walkable expat neighborhood while I work on my Spanish. I don't have a need for a car, and I'm very familiar with the area, and I'm still surprised that the employees of all of the restaurants, coffee shops, and cafes remember me by name. Sometimes I feel like a celebrity. I walk or I bike everywhere I go. I can bike to the grocery store and then Uber back with my bags. I can exercise and save money. Choosing to live right in an expat area, I know I'm paying a bit more in rent. Prices can be a little bit higher in cafes and coffee shops as well. But once I have more Spanish under my belt and I'm a little more comfortable living here, I'll move to a less expensive apartment. My local friends are shocked at the amount that I'm paying, even as an American. For a furnished 2-bed, 2-bathroom apartment in Colonia Americana, I paid 23,000 pesos. Here's the challenge with the fluctuating peso to dollar exchange. When I arrived in Guadalajara back in January, the exchange was about 20 pesos to the dollar. So my rent then would have been about $1,150 a month. More than what my long-term budget allowed, but less than half the cost of a similar apartment and neighborhood in Los Angeles. However, the peso has been really strong against the dollar recently, and at the time of this video, the exchange rate is slightly more than 16 pesos to the dollar. That makes my rent go to $1,370 per month. That's a $220 increase. So you must be aware of the local currency to dollar exchange rate and the changes. You can download an app like XE to research the history and follow the current fluctuations. In addition to currency, you need to be flexible with other differences. For example, coffee is usually served warm versus hot like in the US. It will also come before the meal, so I always have to remember to ask for it mucho caliente, so that it's not cold while I'm eating my meal. But that's on me, not on them. Also, there may be a long line at your favorite restaurant. Be patient. The wait is because you generally are not asked to leave your table until you're finished with your meal and when you're ready to go. You usually need to request the bill, and this will let the servers know that you're finished and ready to go. I missed most of the rainy season here, but I had my opportunity to get caught in the rain, sit on the balcony, and watch a beautiful storm pass by. And lose power in the middle of my favorite TV show. In Guadalajara, the rainy season is June through September. Sometimes you have to take the good with the not so good. You may experience street flooding, power outages, or depending on the age of your building, water may seep in and leak around your windows. Again, the saying here is tranquilo. Relax. Be easy, calm down. It's not the end of the world. Building and construction standards are not the same here as they are in the US, so just be prepared. Thankfully, there generally are no major weather events like hurricanes, tornadoes. Usually, the rain is very predictable and consistent. If you know it's going to rain, stay indoors. If you're out and about, duck into a coffee shop, have a snack, and wait it out. The trade-off of having a safe and peaceful place to live with hospitable neighbors, amazing food, an exciting and festive culture, and a significantly lower cost of living is worth a few inconveniences for me. This life is completely doable in Guadalajara or wherever you choose to live.